Hi, y'all. This is Genevieve, and I decided to do a little research on wars since yesterday I talked about wars. I watched a movie called Greyhound last night, which is about World War II in the ocean and what U-boats were bombing our boats. Well, their submarines were bombing our boats. U-boats were called U-boats, and I had to Google this because it was some German word starting with the U, Untersee, or I don't know. But anyway, that's where the term U-boat came from. They were submarines that would shoot torpedoes at our boats that were carrying men or um, things in it to take to England to help the Allies in Europe. Um, and of course, I got all of my feels because my daddy was in World War II, blah, blah, blah. And there's been so many wars. I didn't even realize how many wars. I started researching it, and into the 20th century, we were still fighting the Indians. We had fights in Nicaragua and in Cuba in the first part of the first 20 years in the 20th century. Then we went to World War One. Then let me make sure I don't miss any. And I'm just giving you a basic recap. Um, we occupied Haiti. Um, we occupied the Dominican Republic. Then we have World War One. Then we were involved in the Russian Civil War. Back to some American Civil Wars. World War II finally. Then Korea. We actually had a gap of a few years. Can you believe that? Vietnam. Laos. The part of the Permesta Rebellion in Indonesia. Lebanon in 1958. So it didn't just start when we think it started. Bay of Pigs, so back to Cuba, back to the Dominican Republic for a civil war, Korea DMZ conflict, which I didn't even know about, Cambodia, of course, Lebanon again, we helped intervene in the 80s, Grenada, we bombed Libya, we're part of the Iran-Iraq war. We invaded Panama. There was then the Gulf War, the Iraqi War. We intervened in Somalia and in Bosnia and Croatia. I remember that one. We intervened again in Haiti. We helped with the Yugoslav wars. And then moving on to this century, we have Afghanistan, Yemen, Iraq. We helped in the Northwest Pakistan War. Somali still, it appears. The war against the pirates over in the Indian Ocean. We intervened in Libya. We intervened in Nigeria. We intervened in Iraq, Syria, we're helping in Israel, Aden, and Yemen currently. Okay, so what is this war thing all about? First of all, anybody that's out there that has served in any of these wars, and there's wars before this, but nobody is alive that served prior to these wars. I'm going to thank you. I don't care how unpopular your war was. You were doing what you thought was right. I don't think anybody went to war that didn't believe in their cause. Right or wrong, they believed. And so we, as Americans, should thank them, regardless of what we thought of their particular war. because they were following their conscience. And that is all we can ever ask of anyone. But what I want to say about war is that it's the hubris of old men and, well, it used to be just the hubris of old men, but now it's probably the hubris of old men and women who have over land or resources, water. I think water is going to be a big one in the next century. Resources. I mean, that's why we're in the Middle East. Gas, oil, people, because people are a resource. And sometimes it's absolutely disgusting. For example, we knew at the upper echelon, we knew more about the Holocaust that was going on than we ever let on, until we liberated the camps, of course, or until the end. FDR wanted to get into the war earlier, is my understanding, and then Pearl Harbor happened, and we wanted to get in because Japan was allied with Germany. Conspiracy theorists will say that we even knew about Pearl Harbor ahead of time and let it happen so we could get in. I'm not going to go that far. I don't know. I wasn't alive then. I don't have access to all of those documents, which should be declassified by now. So if you really want to know, go find out. But what I do know is that young men and women die in our wars that old men and women send them to. It's not really fair. And when I see someone who didn't fight for their country, who avoided the draft, and not because of any belief, except their own cowardice, that annoys me. Now, if you have a belief against a particular war, or if you are a pacifist, which could be a Quaker, a Mennonite, Amish, or you just don't believe in war, I get that. And I can get behind that if that's your hard-held belief. But that also means if someone hits you, you don't hit him back because you're a pacifist. So that's really up to you. But when I see someone in power who didn't go to war and says negative things about our soldiers, it pisses me off. You probably know who I'm talking about, but we won't go there because that is not what this is about. I just want to say, when are we going to stop sending our young people, the best of us, to war, to die, so that we can have more land or more oil? Why don't we learn different ways to live? Why don't we learn other ways to have our cars run? Why don't we learn how not to eat so much meat? Why don't we learn to share and love? These are just questions. I don't have any answers. The older I get, the more I realize I have little answers. But I just wanted to say that I guess this is my Memorial Day speech, even though it's a few days late, but you never know. You know, I am a woman. I am allowed to be late according to, gossip. Anyway, namaste, y'all. Have a great one. Bye.